My best friend was secretly dating my ex behind my back. When I confronted them, they revealed a truth that broke me. The photo appeared in my Instagram feed like a knife to the chest. It was supposed to be a casual scroll through social media during my lunch break, a mindless distraction from another tedious day at the accounting firm. But there it was, a picture that made my sandwich turn to ash in my mouth. Jake and Mia sitting together at Rossetti's, our favorite Italian place. The same booth where Jake had broken up with me 6 months ago, claiming he needed space to figure himself out. The same restaurant where Mia had held my hand across the table afterward, promising that we'd get through this together, and that his loss was the world's gain. In the photo, Jake's arm was around her shoulders, and she was laughing at something he'd said, her head thrown back in that carefree way that had made me love her like a sister for the past 8 years. The caption was simple: "Perfect evening with this amazing guy." My hands shook as I stared at the screen. It wasn't just that they were together, though that felt like a betrayal deep enough to drown in. It was the timestamp. The photo had been posted 3 weeks ago, but it was tagged as a memory from 6 months ago. 6 months ago. The exact week Jake had broken up with me. I spent the rest of my lunch break in the bathroom, crying silently in a stall while my coworkers went about their normal lives just outside the door. 8 years of friendship with Mia, 2 years of dating Jake, and apparently it had all been a lie. That evening, I sat in my apartment staring at my phone, drafting and deleting messages to both of them. What do you say to your best friend who's been lying to your face for half a year? How do you confront the ex-boyfriend who probably left you for someone else but was too cowardly to admit it? By midnight, I decided on directness. I texted them both, "We need to talk, all 3 of us. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., my place." The responses came within minutes of each other. Jake: "Emma, I can explain everything." Mia: "I know you're upset, but please let me tell you what really happened." Their eagerness to explain only made it worse. At least if they'd tried to deny it, I could have convinced myself I was mistaken. The next day crawled by like torture. I couldn't focus on spreadsheets when my entire understanding of my closest relationships was crumbling. I kept replaying memories, looking for signs I'd missed. Had they exchanged glances when they thought I wasn't looking? Had their touches lingered too long during group hugs? Had they been laughing at me behind my back while I cried to Mia about missing Jake? At exactly 7 p.m., my doorbell rang. I opened it to find them standing together, not touching, but close enough that it felt intentional. Jake looked terrible, his usually perfect hair disheveled, dark circles under his brown eyes. Mia was wringing her hands, a nervous habit I'd seen her do before big presentations at work. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, cold and detached. They sat on opposite ends of my couch, the space between them somehow making their connection more obvious than if they'd been holding hands. I remained standing, arms crossed, every muscle in my body coiled with betrayal and hurt. "So," I said, breaking the suffocating silence. "How long?" Jake and Mia exchanged a look, and God, even that hurt, seeing their silent communication, their shared understanding that excluded me. "Emma," Mia started, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not what you think." "Really?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Because what I think is that my best friend has been sleeping with my ex-boyfriend behind my back for 6 months while pretending to comfort me through our breakup. What I think is that you both lied to my face every single day while I trusted you completely." "We never slept together," Jake said quickly. "Emma, I swear to you, we never." "Oh, so it's just emotional cheating then? That makes it so much better." "No," Mia stood up abruptly, tears streaming down her face. "Emma, please, you have to let us explain. It's not cheating. It was never cheating because—" She stopped, looking at Jake with something like panic in her eyes. "Because what?" I demanded. They were both crying now, and seeing them in pain should have given me some satisfaction, but it only made me feel hollower. These were the 2 people I'd loved most in the world, and they destroyed that love with their deception. Jake ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I'd once found endearing, but now just irritated me. "Emma, I didn't break up with you because I needed space. Obviously, you needed space to be with her." "No," he said, his voice breaking. "I broke up with you because I'm gay." The words hit me like a physical blow. I sank into my armchair, staring at him. What? I'm gay, Emma. I have been my whole life. I thought if I tried hard enough, if I loved you enough, I could change that. But I couldn't. I was living a lie, and it wasn't fair to either of us. My brain struggled to process this information. But then why are you with Mia? That doesn't make sense. He's not with me, Mia said softly. Not the way you think. I looked between them, confusion replacing some of my anger. Then what is this? What have you been doing for 6 months? Mia sat back down, pulling her knees to her chest, a position I'd seen her take countless times during our late-night conversations. Emma, I'm transgender. The room spun slightly. What do you mean? I mean I was born male. I've been transitioning for the past year and a half. Jake has been helping me through it. I felt like I was in an alternate universe where nothing made sense. Transitioning? But you've always been. I've always felt female, Mia corrected gently. But I was born with male anatomy. I started hormone therapy 18 months ago, right around the time you and Jake got serious. I was terrified to tell you because I didn't know how you'd react. My mind reeled back through our friendship, looking for signs I'd missed. Mia's sudden interest in makeup tutorials, her new workout routine, the way she'd started wearing looser clothing, then gradually more feminine styles, her reluctance to go swimming or change clothes around me. The photos, I said weakly. You looked so happy together. Because I was happy, Jake said. For the first time in my life, I was with someone who understood what it felt like to live in the wrong body, to pretend to be someone you're not. Mia gets it in a way no one else ever has. But you were lying to me, I said, though the accusation felt weaker now, confused. We were protecting ourselves, Mia said. Jake was terrified his family would disown him if they found out he's gay. I was terrified everyone would reject me if they knew I was trans. We found safety in each other. But I'm not everyone, I said, hurt creeping back into my voice. I'm supposed to be your best friend. You could have trusted me. Mia's face crumpled. I wanted to. God, Emma, I wanted to tell you so badly, but I was scared. What if you saw me differently? What if you couldn't accept who I really am? And what if your family cut me off completely? Jake added. What if I lost the only parental figures who ever actually cared about me? I thought about Jake's relationship with my parents, how my mom called him her bonus son, how my dad took him to baseball games. I thought about my own reaction in this moment. Was I angry about their deception, or was part of me struggling with the revelations themselves? So all those nights you comforted me about Jake, I said to Mia, you were really comforting me about losing someone who was never actually attracted to me in the first place? I was comforting my best friend who was hurting, she said firmly. Your pain was real, even if the relationship was built on something that couldn't last. I looked at Jake. Did you ever actually love me? I cared about you deeply, he said. I still do. But romantic love, the kind of love you deserved? No. I tried to convince myself I did, but I was just playing a role I thought I was supposed to play. The cruelty of it hit me then, not intentional cruelty, but the pain of knowing that our entire relationship had been Jake's attempt to be someone he wasn't. Every kiss, every I love you, every plan we'd made for the future, all of it had been him desperately trying to fit into a life that would never truly be his. So what now? I asked. You two are together, and I'm just supposed to be happy for you? We're not together the way you think, Mia said again. We're both still figuring out who we are. Jake is learning to accept his sexuality. I'm learning to live as my authentic self. We're supporting each other through it, but we're not romantically involved. Yet, Jake added honestly, we don't know what the future holds. But Emma, we never wanted to hurt you. We were just trying to survive being ourselves in a world that doesn't always make that safe. I sat in silence for a long time, processing everything they'd told me. My anger was still there, but it was mixing with something else. Sadness for all of us, for the years of hiding and fear, for the relationships built on foundations that were never solid. I need time, I finally said. I need to think about all of this. They both nodded, standing to leave. Emma, Mia said as they reached the door. I know this changes things between us. I know you might not be able to see me the same way. But I hope someday you can understand why we kept this secret. After they left, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, looking out at the city lights. Everything I thought I knew about my life had been reframed in a single evening. My 2-year relationship with Jake hadn't been the love story I'd thought it was. It had been his desperate attempt to be someone he wasn't. My best friendship with Mia had been real, but built on a foundation of secrets that had apparently been necessary for her survival. I thought about the friends I'd lost over the years to smaller betrayals, the way I'd always prided myself on being trustworthy, reliable, the kind of person others could confide in. But faced with the reality of my loved one's struggles, I had to confront an uncomfortable truth. Would I have been safe for them to confide in? Would I have reacted with love and support, or would my own discomfort have made their lives harder? The photo that had started this all made sense now. Not a celebration of betrayal, but two people finding joy in finally being able to be honest with someone, even if that someone wasn't me. Over the following weeks, I did research. I read about the transgender experience, about coming out as gay in conservative families, about the mental health impacts of living in the closet. I started to understand that Jake and Mia's secrecy hadn't been about excluding me. It had been about protecting themselves in a world that could be dangerous for people like them. I also had to confront my own feelings about their revelations. Was I upset about the lying, or was I uncomfortable with the truths they'd revealed? It was a hard question to answer honestly. A month later, I texted Mia, "Want to get coffee? I think we need to talk." We met at a small cafe downtown, neutral ground where we could both feel safe. She looked nervous but hopeful, wearing a sundress I'd never seen before that suited her perfectly. "I've been thinking," I said after we'd ordered, "about everything you told me." She nodded, waiting. "I'm still hurt that you didn't trust me," I continued. "But I'm starting to understand why, and I'm realizing that my hurt feelings aren't the most important thing here." "Your feelings matter too, Emma." "They do, but your safety matters more. Your happiness matters more." I took a breath. "I want you to know that I love you exactly as you are. I always have. The fact that you're transgender doesn't change that." She started crying, right there in the cafe, and I reached across the table to take her hand. "I was so scared," she whispered. "I was so scared you'd reject me." "Never," I said firmly. "You're my best friend. That doesn't change because you're living your truth now." We talked for hours that day, really talked, in a way we hadn't been able to when secrets stood between us. She told me about the fear, the therapy, the joy of finally feeling comfortable in her own skin. I told her about my own journey of examining my biases and assumptions. Jake and I had a similar conversation a few weeks later. He apologized for leading me on, for not being honest about who he was. I apologized for not being the kind of person he felt safe coming out to earlier. "I want you to be happy," I told him. "Really, genuinely happy, even if that happiness doesn't include me. You'll always be important to me, Emma. You and your family gave me something I'd never had: acceptance, love. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you needed, but I'm grateful for what you were to me." 6 months later, I was Mia's maid of honor. Not at a wedding, but at her legal name change ceremony. Jake was there too, along with a small group of people who loved and supported her. She looked radiant, finally living as her authentic self. Jake started dating someone new, a man named David, who made him laugh the way I'd always wanted to. Seeing them together, I understood what I'd been missing with Jake. The ease, the natural chemistry, the way his whole face lit up when David walked into a room. He'd never looked at me that way, and now I knew why. The betrayal I'd felt that day when I saw their photo had transformed into something else: understanding, acceptance, even gratitude. Their deception had been an act of survival, and their friendship had been a lifeline for both of them. Sometimes the truth breaks us, not because it's cruel, but because it forces us to rebuild our understanding of love, loyalty, and what it means to truly support the people we care about. Jake and Mia didn't betray me. They were trying to save themselves. And in the process, they taught me what unconditional love actually looks like. It looks like making space for people to be who they are, even when that's not who you thought they were. It looks like choosing understanding over hurt feelings. It looks like recognizing that sometimes the people we love have to lie to us in order to survive long enough to tell us the truth. The photo that broke my heart became, in time, a reminder of resilience, of friendship, and of the courage it takes to live authentically in a world that doesn't always make that safe. And I learned that true friendship isn't about never being hurt. It's about choosing love even when the truth is harder than the lies ever were.